Hello, this is Bonnie, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm kind of like celebrating the new release from Fairy Hugs, which is a fairy tales theme. And today we'll be using at least one of those just to in my project. But this is just to help you get set up for getting anything else in the collection. So we are going to be making, or I am going to be making, a fairy tales mini book. It's not so much mini, it's going to be a 6x6. And it's going to be kind of simple so that you can continue to add to your book as you're making your fairy tales if you'd like, or anything you want to save in your, it could be like a journal. So what you need is some heavier stock cardboard or chipboard, whatever you want. I even have used mailing boxes before. All of that works. I have cut that to a 6x6 and then I have also cut some black cardstock that's going to be covering my book, and that basically measures 7.5 inch square. So that's pretty simple. And then I am going to be using some rings, and that's how we're going to be able to continue to add to your book. And we're going to be using, Fairy Hugs has fairy tape, which is very similar to score tape. This one's very thin. It's only, I think it's like 1/8 of an inch. It could be smaller. I can't even remember anymore. But anyway, so I'm going to be using that. And I'm also going to be using some BumbleTwinkle for the cover on top of using the black. So there's other things I'm going to be using. Oh, and from the new collection, I am going to be using Haku, our dragon, our corner dragon. And actually, he's really cool. He's not so much a corner. He can be anywhere. But he's perfect, as you can tell, for the size of our book. So let's get started. And what you do first when you go to make your book, kind of simple, because I'm making a simple one, is you use some glue. And you just, as long as my glue, I didn't even test my glue this morning. Let's go ahead and poke that a little bit. That will help me get started. Okay. And get started in that. So basically I put glue on one side. Of course my glue does not want to cooperate. It's coming. There we go. And you don't want to wait too long after you put your glue on, because this all bumps up and it does kind of show. Or you could actually use like a Mod Podge or any other kind of glue, anything that's your favorite glue to use. But I'm going to go ahead and put that down quickly. Center that on the black paper. And you need that for both your front and your back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for both. Get that all set up. It doesn't really take, very long to get this on. This is just to keep it in place when I'm putting it together. All right, now you might have your favorite way of doing corners. And this is how I like to do mine. So just a minute, put this back on so it doesn't dry out for me. And basically what I like to do is, I'm getting my scissors, is I do like to fold these in at the corners, because I like that corner to be good. And so I just try to make sure that's right there on that point. And you know what? I don't make perfection covers. I don't know how to say that. So if these corners aren't perfect, I want it to look kind of loved. So I don't care if it's not perfect. But that's basically what I do, is I just fold these corners in. And then I'm going to come back with each one of those corners and put some glue on. And I'll do that to both sides, but I don't need to do both sides to show you, but I wanted you to see how I did that. But that's what I do, and I want that to adhere. So I'm kind of like scoring that with my finger as best I can. Now there's a lot of options for making your books. Say you don't want to make your own cover. There's a lot of options. You can buy used books that are hardcover books, and you can cut them, like basically just cut them apart. And you can use the covers and then use the rings the same way. And that could be your base, cardboard base if you want it to be. And then you can decorate it just this way like I am right now. Or you can just put things over the cover. I don't know if you're familiar with doing that. Altering books. I love altering books. Using them as a cover. And then I don't use all the pages. I even save some of the pages that are inside of them and use them as my actual pages. So it would not be something you could use if you wanted to add to, unless you took the covers off, like I said. All right, so now I've got these corners done. And you can do one of two things. You can add more glue and flip them over, or you can use this tape. And that's what I'm going to do. I really do like this tape, and it works really well. And like I said, this one's a really thin tape. I haven't used this one yet because I've been trying to use up my old tape. But I wanted to show you that Fairy Hugs actually does carry really nice score tape. So what you're going to do is basically just put this tape on all four sides, and you're going to want to do at least two. I just like to, just to have more secure to it. And that works really well. And then what I wanted to tell you is I also do the inside cover. I do cover that. And you can even add pockets to it. There's so many things you can do when you make your own. I might even show you that too. But I wanted to show you how easy this is. This has not taken me very long. It's not hard to cut the pieces. You can make them any size. You do not have to make them a 6x6, but I just like to add that extra to it when I do make my own cover. So then basically I'm just going to take this tape away, and we're going to bend right where the cardboard meets the. See how I'm doing that? I'm just kind of like scoring it with my finger, and then I'm going to pull that over. It's kind of like wrapping a present in a way, but it's just wrapping cardboard. But this makes I think it makes a nice corner doing it this way. So, and this is how I would do my front and my back. And you could use any color paper, but I purposely picked black because, again, I want it to look, I want to put some wax on it to make it look a little bit older. Whoops, totally pulled that off. Try the other side. There we go. Okay. And so because the cover is a 6x6, that means my insides of my pages and everything will be smaller. I probably will cut them back so that they are like 5 3/4. But like I said, you can make it any size. So now you have your cover. That's what it looks like, totally. Super simple. I am going to put paper on the inside of this, and I'll get that together too. So I'm going to go ahead and make my back, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now for the inside cover and pocket. I did decide to do a pocket. Again, I'm just still using the BumbleTwinkle, and these are papers that I hadn't used yet. And so I cut these down to, like I said, 5 3/4 so that I had a little bit of a border. And I put the score tape on the back. You can also add glue if you want to, or you could just use glue. It just takes a little bit longer sometimes for the glue to dry. And also, if you use glue, I would suggest to use something to set on top of it to keep it together. Heavy. Alrighty. So this is going to be one of the inside covers. And just line that up and put that on. And then I had some of the black cardstock left over for when I cut the covers. So I used those scraps to make my pocket. And in this case, I made it the same length going across, and that was 5 3/4. And then what I like to do is I like to double up my pocket. So I didn't measure that. Oh yes, I did. So this is like 3 1/2, and then I scored it at 1 3/4. Because I like to make my pockets so that they don't rip up here at the top, so that I can fold it over and makes it a little bit more sturdy. So in order to do that, that's how I did that. What you need is to put score tape on the inside, which will keep your folded pocket together like that. This will be the bottom of your pocket. So then on the back side, I put score tape to make it into a pocket. Again, you can use glue or whatever you think is a really good adhesive. And so you know how our design team member, our friend Julia Watts, makes a lot of tags. This will be too small for some of the tags that she makes, but if you make tags, this will be a great place for you to add tags and just put them in your pocket. Or you can put anything here in your pocket that you like. So now we have a little pocket right here. And that will be our inside cover. And I'm going to do the exact same thing to the back. I thought I'd show you again just to make sure. I mean, you could always rewind and watch how I made the pocket, but I'm going to go ahead and show you again. So again, this is the score part. I'm adding the tape to the very bottom to keep it together. Simple as that. Get the little fuzzy out of there. Okay, so now it doesn't matter if you use this color paper, which is the front and back, but decide what you want on the inside. And then you're just going to go across the bottom again. And then on the two short sides, you want to keep the top open so you can have a pocket. Whoops, get that up a little bit higher. Now, if you are a sewer and you like to sew, you could have actually stitched this on as well, and that would look kind of cool. You'd have to stitch it on before you add your cover piece. You stitch your pocket to the back piece first, and then add your backing inside cover. All right, so same concept, and then I'm just going to be setting that right down there. You could make more than one pocket too, as far as that goes, if you wanted to have another pocket up above, and then you could actually layer your whatever you want to put inside. So now we have our front and our back, and it was as simple as that. And we can do, you can even decorate inside here, you could stamp inside here, whatever you want to do. So then what I like to do is I like to put the two pieces together so they look decent, and I decide where I want my holes. And all I do is I usually come in, I think I come down like, I'm going to measure this for you, but I usually eye everything first, And then I come back with my ruler and I measure that, so I make sure that it really is the way. So it's about 1 inch, and it's about it's a little bit less than 1/2 inch. So it's about 1 inch right there. So I keep these two together as best I can, or just do one at a time. So just to show you, to make it easier, we'll do one at a time. I use this, I don't know what this thing is called anymore. It's like a big bite. Oh, crocodile tube. It cuts through everything. So not everything, but it does cut through things. And you have 2 choices, a large one and a smaller one. And in this case, I'm using the larger one because I want to make sure there's a lot of freedom for this ring. So that's what I'm doing. So I line that up, and you can't really see this, what I'm doing, because I'm even at the side. But it cuts through really nicely. See? So then I'm going to do the other one. I wish you could see how, maybe I can turn it to the side. Let's just try it. It's not exactly what you're supposed to do when you do it. Of course, then I can't see my light. My light's messing me up here. Here we go. Okay. So I've got it right where I need it so you can see it. That's it. So now I've got my 2 holes. So like I said, you could actually technically probably do 2 at the same time. So we've got that all set. So then what I'm going to do is bring these over here as best I can and get my pencil out again, make my circles, bring it over to my crocodile and cut those out. This will make your book, and then you can then design your cover, and you could make pages to go inside. Really super cool. So I'm just going to show you how that goes together now, but the next thing I'm going to do is make the cover. I'm going to put these in just so you can see how the book looks. Now, if you don't want these huge rings, they're smaller sizes, but this really allows you to put quite a bit inside of here. So it really depends on what you want. If you want a smaller book, don't use these. You can not only that, but you could actually use ribbon and untie the ribbon. There's so many options you can do. So that's our book, just the basic book. And then you can start doing some fun stuff and decorating. So that's going to be my next step. Okay, so now I'm preparing the cover for the fairy tale book. And I'm basing that upon where these holes are, where I put those holes. So I know that the paper is not going to go all the way over there. And I also think I'm going to be making it look so that it's a little bit more old looking on the front. So what I'm going to do, this is a 6x6 piece of paper. So I know that I want the edges to be ragged. So I have plenty of room to do that, and I don't care if it's not perfectly square, but for your benefit, I am going to draw around there and show you, just a second here, and I'm going to show you that you can be a little bit more precise. I'm pulling out my dies, and this helps me decide where I want, how big I want it to be. And I think that's going to work perfectly for what I want from looking at it. Let's just make sure. Nope, that's going to be a little bit, well, that's going to be a little bit too big. So we're going to go the next size down. Yep, that's going to work. So let's measure that just so that you know. And that is going to be 5 inches. So what we're going to do, which would be really cool if you had one of those machines that actually do beveled-ish edges or the raggedy edges. I don't happen to have that. I do have an old-fashioned Fiskars scissors, which would work great, but because we don't all have the same thing, I'm just going to lightly draw around this. Because it's a pencil, I can erase it. And this gives me a guide. I'm not going to cut, I mean, you could just make a plain edge and use the 5 inches. But what I'm going to do, and this is really important if you are tearing, which people should, you know, could possibly already know this, but I am tearing up because I want that white edge right now. And I'm going to try to follow that line. Let's see if you can see that. I'm going to try to follow that line. This is hard to hold. And show it in the camera. I'm going to hold it as best I can to show you and tear along that line. Now, if I really wanted it to be wonky, I could have just eyed it. So you can kind of see how I have that rough edge. And I'm tearing up so that the white shows. If I tear the opposite direction, it doesn't show. If I tear down. This is actually kind of fun if you like to tear paper. And you can actually save these. You can use these for scrap stuff if you want. I end up with too many scraps, so. Now you can do a couple of things with these edges. You can leave them as is. You can add your distress inks to them, or you can do what I'm going to do today, and which I've done on many cards already. What I'm going to do is put the clear embossing ink on these edges, and then I'm going to be using, you can use your gold embossing powder, but I am going to be using, because I really like this sparkle, it's copper, it's from Ranger. It's embossing tinsel, and you can see how pretty and sparkly it is. I am going to use that for the edges of all of this. Just simply by, I'll show you, simply by using the VersaMark clear embossing ink. So I want to show you that. I need a piece of paper. All right, so I'm just going to do one edge at a time. And I'm just going to rub this along that. Okay, and then I'm going to get out my embossing powder. You could use anything, any kind of embossing powder, whatever you think goes really good with whatever you're making. And I do like to do this. I usually do this before I add my stamping, just because I know I can see where I want to stamp. All right, now you can go over to your embossing or your heat gun, and you can go ahead and heat that right now if you want, or if you're not too worried about bumping into that one up there. Otherwise, you can just do one, do them all at the same time. I'm gonna go ahead and heat emboss this and get the rest of it done, and I'll be back. Okay, so I wanted to show you the finished edges on that, so you can see how that looks. Like I said, it's just kind of, I don't know, oldish looking, sort of. So the next step would be, let me see if I can do this. I want to emboss the words "Once Upon a Time." I don't want to lose too much of my powder there. If I lose my powder, I can always add more of the clear embossing powder and put more embossing powder or clear embossing ink and put more embossing powder on that, so it won't take it away. I mean, if it takes it away, I can put more back on. So this is my plan, is I'm going to be putting Haku here in the center, and I'm going to be adding, well, sort of in the center, because I'm going to add "Once Upon a Time" like he is holding it in a way. So that's how it's kind of simple, but I'm going to add a little bit more to it. But that's how I want to do it. And because I'm going to be embossing the "Once Upon a Time," I have to stamp that first and emboss it, because I don't want any of the powder to get on the dragon. So, let's see if that'll hold that down. I'm going to use VersaFine Clair Nocturne because it does keep moist longer, and it doesn't matter because the embossing powder I'm using will totally cover that up. You won't know that it's black. Okay, I'm going to stamp that one more time. I think there's plenty of ink on there. I do like it in black. I've really been torn if I want it to be gold because gold doesn't always pop as much. But we're going to go ahead and try this. And I am using, it's a fine detail embossing powder. So let's take this off a second. Yeah, I really didn't lose much of my, you can't really tell, of the powder, so that's good. So I'm going to quick grab my paper and put some of this on. Oh, this one's new. I have another one, I'm sure, in there that's not new. Let me find that. I do. Okay, cool. I thought I grabbed my old one, and I didn't. Okay. It is not the sparkly like the outside. I think that's going to work fine. So I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that turned out really nice. I really like it worked. I was wondering if it was going to blend in too much with the background, but it does not. So now we need to add the dragon. I'm going to set this back up again. Okay. I do really want him to fit on there like he is just barely touching. I guess it doesn't really matter if it's too much because his claws will not show up because that's embossing. So I do want it to be just above it a little bit. So, but I want him to be more straight. So he might have to go like that. I think that looks good. Okay. And get that lined up. Even after I get it on the acetate, I still adjust it. I just don't want his face touching that so that it shows up. And I am going to be using VersaFine Clair Nocturne. Okay. Whoops, I got some ink. Don't need to get all this far and then have ink show up on my project. Okay. I think he's going to be okay. Got a little crazy, I guess, with that ink. Usually it doesn't show up because it's not that close to the paper. Let that set for a little bit. I'll probably have to ink him up again. I'm really excited about this new release. It is so cool. And this will make a really great fairy tale book with the new release. We have the Three Little Pigs, we have a Cinderella, we have Sleeping Beauty, and I think I said that, Red Riding Hood. Right. And the thing of it is our collections can really make any fairy tales for the most part, if you want them to. Okay, that moved a little bit. I'm a little scared. I don't want it blurred. If it's blurred, then we have a problem. Well, we're going to try it, and I might have to make a whole new cover. We'll see. Sometimes my washi tape just does not hold in the magnet. But that's good. It's slightly blurred, but we're good. I think we'll be good. I'm going to be coloring this in, so it'll look good. So I'm happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that colored in, and I'll be back to show you what else we're going to do. Okay, so I have the dragon all colored in, and I decided I wanted to add a little bit of this new stamp from the new release, the Fairy Hugs release. It's called Starry. Need to put this behind it. It's called Starry Walkway, and it's really, really a really nice stamp. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm not only going to stamp it, but I'm going to emboss it as well. And it's going to blend in with the sparkly embossing powder. So I've got that all set up. I am going to use VersaFine Clair Nocturne. And then, like I said, I'm going to just emboss that with the sparkly embossing powder we use for the outside. And it doesn't really matter if these don't show up as well, because it'll all blend in because it's the same embossing powder. And that should work. Needs a little bit more ink. All right, so then I'm going to emboss that, and you can see that worked out really, really well. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the cover all ready to go, and you can see how it's got the, I even put, I have some paint that is the glitter paint, and that's even on the wings. And then there we go for the stars at the bottom. So I'm going to put this on the front, but before I put it on the front, I am going to add some of this wax. I don't know if they still make this wax, but you can use any kind of a wax for the edges of the book cover. Now, you could do the same thing I did for this and even add the sparkle to the outside of that, or you could even use the plain gold. But I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and all I'm doing is I'm just rubbing my finger on the edges of it just to make it kind of look kind of oldish. And in fact, what I'll probably do when I go to add each page, because I will cut out 5 by 7, or maybe a little bit bigger, I'm not sure, because I don't care if the pages extend from this book. Haven't decided what size I'm going to make my pages yet. The book is a 6-inch book cover, but why I was telling you that is I'm going to do the same thing to those pages. I'm going to put this edging on it so that even when you look at the side of it, you'll see that, because you know how sometimes you can get books that have a little bit of gold on the edge of the books or pages. That's what I'm trying to do. So I just wanted to show you before I put that on that I wanted to do this. And I don't care if some of this comes off and it comes up. I mean, it doesn't just stay on the edges. I like it. And this would also be really cool using a embossing folder, or like a 3D that looks almost like leather. That would be cool also to add to your book. So anyway, like I said, I'm just going to add that, and that's what I'm going to do also to the back as well. So that's our cover. And then I'm going to wipe that off my fingers so I don't get it everywhere. And then I'm going to put this on, and you can see how that just gives it a little bit of a finished look to it. It's kind of cool. So I have already put that double-sided tape I used previously from Fairy Hugs all the way around the border of this. Now, yes, I'm not going all the way to the very edge. Could those pieces curl up with time? Yes, they could. Again, To me, that'll give more of an older look to it, and I'm okay with that. If you are not, put glue all the way to the edge, and then put some tape on. So I'm just doing it this way, and then I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the center to keep it down as well. And like I said, this is a time if I really wanted those edges, I could also put more glue on the edge. Okay. All set for that. And just put that, like, how well that would look on there. That looks good to me. I don't want to cover up the holes. Right, so the tape for the most part holds it down, and then I'm just kind of like burnishing it a little bit to help the glue to hold it as well. So that's our cover. I'm really pleased with how that turned out. You could do so many things with the Fairy Hug stamps because we can make all different kinds of fairy covers if we want to, or any book kind of cover. So I'm going to put this back together, and I'm going to show you, I cut out some tags just to show you what the tags look like in the pocket. Although I didn't finish the tags, I just cut them out so you could see how they do fit, and they do look good. So I think that's really cool. Like I said, I could have smaller rings so it's not as big if I wanted to go that route. And see, it will stay open like that too. So the size of these tags are about 4.5 inches, a little bit more than, almost 4 3/4. So they fit perfectly fine. Again, I use paper from Fairy Hugs craft papers, and they will fit inside of here, just like that. You could put probably more than that in there if you wanted to. So I just wanted to show you that too, that you could actually make your pages even turn into pockets, and it can hold more stuff. So this is really cool. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gave you some ideas and inspired you to make your own fairy tales book. Thanks so much for stopping by. Everything will be in the description below.